What's going on, everybody? It's Mobility Marty here. I'm going to be showing you guys and taking you guys through my pregame routine that I do before every baseball game. Every single step in here, besides the plyo care balls that I've just added, which I have a separate video on and I'll do more videos on in the future, that will not be included in this pregame warm-up, but that is what I include in my warm-up just for time efficiency's sake. I want to take you guys through what I do before I ever pick up a ball. And to get started, I literally just tied my cleats on, and I've got two different finger training devices here that come together with a bigger gripper on Amazon. I'll link it up here and send the picture. Link will be down below. I don't think it's very expensive, but all I want to do before I ever even pick up a ball, I usually like to start with this one here. It's finger extension. So I'll go on my right hand and pretty much rep it till failure. I'm just sitting here, rep this till failure, maybe go in a simulated motion of throwing where I'm pronated, supinated back here. I really like being out here a little bit more or straight out in front. Flex it to failure. That's pretty good. Just for time's sake, I'm not going to go to failure on everything, and I may not do as many reps as I normally do, but I will give you the prescribed reps that I'm typically thinking of or what I'm trying to think of as I go through this. So then I'll switch to the other hand. The other hand's just as important. I know I throw right-handed, but especially as a catcher, I use these three fingers just as much as I use these, and the stronger your fingers can be on either hand, the better you're going to be able to field the ball and throw the ball. So rep till failure there. That feels all right. I'll take it off now and I'll go to this gripper machine. Now, you can do each finger individually, and it's kind of like you're cuffing your fingers around a baseball. So if you were holding a baseball, you'd be wrapping that knuckle around onto the seams. And I typically really only focus on these three fingers. The ring finger, not so much. It's probably the least of my worries, but I will just rep it out here and get a little bit into that pronation like I've just thrown. That's pretty good there. Now I'm going to go to my middle finger, and that's where I'm going to rep like crazy. I'm going to go like crazy on this. You're going to see your muscles working in your wrist all the way up to the inside of your elbow. And this finger, specifically, flexing this finger is directly correlated with the UCL. So you can not only get stronger here, but stay a little bit more protected in our elbow when we're throwing. So that's pretty good there. Now I'll go to just my pointer finger, which is more for performance. But again, those two fingers, the middle and the pointer finger, are the two that I'm really trying to focus on repping out here. Again, you're going to feel that burn like crazy. I'm just going to a failure. And then sometimes I'll go both fingers at the same time. Maybe I'll even spread the fingers and really try to focus on just squeezing down there with that top knuckle. That's good there. And then again, I'm going to repeat the same on the left hand here, working here, but I specifically like doing this here, working in this range of motion because this is my whole receiving action as a catcher. Even when you're trying to catch a ball in general, whether you're playing first base or you're in the outfield, like you want to catch it in the pocket there, not in the web. So that's good there. That's the extent of finger training that I'm going to do before every game. Again, I don't pick up a ball until I do that. Now I'll take you into the flow from the ground up. Now is when I like to start from the ground up, and that's going to start with our ankles. So find something to put my butt up against. Usually the edge of the fence works at the dugout that I'm in. And all I'm thinking about is leaning forward so I actually get a little bit of a hamstring stretch, pulling those toes up and back down, up and back down. I'm thinking anywhere from like 25 to 50 reps, somewhere in failure. And then typically I'll add in reps where I'll rotate my feet, externally rotate and internally, external to internal, still staying down here and getting a little bit of that stretch in the hamstring, right? I'm going to failure there pretty much, which is around 25, 30 reps. And then coming here, or hand on the fence here, and I'm getting into this bent knee position, which is where we spend a lot of our time as baseball players, especially me as a catcher. So I'm here, coming up, back down, and I'm just trying to get a lot of blood flowing here. So I don't need to hold these reps. I just want to get blood flowing. Usually I'm thinking anywhere from 15 to 25 each side, trying to get more in the upwards of 25 range for each. So that's good there. Now I'll come to the other side here, work those, just get that knee over the toe. I'm not like moonwalking forward. I'm in this position and I'm going up and down. So my leg's not straightening as I go up, just keeping it bent. That feels good there. Now I like to go directly into the knee with Poliquin step-ups. So typically what I'll do is I'll find some sort of heel elevation. Now I have my bat here, and some dugouts that I play at where the concrete meets the grass, there's a little bit of a lip. So you could probably do it right there. But for the sake of this, I'll say, all right, I don't have that. So I've got my bat here. I'm over the barrel, and I want to make sure I'm nice and steady here. And I can even use assistance on the fence if I need it. But all I'm thinking about is getting that knee over the toe, touching the heel of the other foot, getting a lot of blood flowing here. So kind of trying to go faster reps It's very similar to going backward, like backwards walking or running, which you could add in your routine, but I'd rather do this, directly training the knee with gravity on your back as opposed to trying to propel yourself, backwards. Thinking again, 25 to 50 each side there. So I'm just repping it out here, getting a lot of blood flowing there, getting the knees feeling good. So that feels good there. So now, typically what I would do is I'd go into an ATG split squat, which can be regressed if you go to the bench and put your foot up on it. So I'll typically come down, just get some reps here, pulse it around, because this is where I know I can get to with my ability. Come back up, that feels pretty good there. So now we're getting into the knees and the hips a little bit. A little tightness in the hips, but that's okay. Open them up. That's pretty good there. And I will do another variation of split squats when I get onto the bands. But now I'm gonna get into a bit of a standing pancake. So get to my spot where I feel most comfortable here. A biggest stretch. I try to keep my toes pointed in to internally rotate my hips. And I'm just thinking flex quads here. Usually have the bat in my hands, working overhead, just loosening my body up. A little bit of rotation here. You can go a little bit of QL with it, but we're gonna get into that later. We're also gonna get into more of the upper body later, but I do like to add in just some rotation here, because it is a lot of what we're gonna see. You can even take the bat, wrap around that way, wrap around that way. So that way you're internally rotating these hips while your torso is working in an opposite direction. So we're getting kind of the same feel when we're swinging. I'm just feeling good here. I can also use the bat to kind of help myself here, get some reps and some more range of motion. So that feels pretty good there, honestly. Kind of come down in like a frog pose a little bit. Get a little bit of that external rotation going. Can widen the feet out. Do the same thing here, almost like a goalie split. Getting the hips going. Now I'll come a little bit of an elephant walk. I'll kind of do it similar to elephant walks here. So I'll kind of go one at a time for a little bit. And then I find myself a lot of times pulsing like this, trying to like push myself into more of a range of motion, using my bat as like a Zercher grip. Oh, feel pretty good there. So now, sticking with the lower body, I've got the bands tied up around the fence here at a low angle. So now I'm hitting all my joint angles. I'm gonna hit hip flexion, I'm gonna hit knee flexion. I already did some extension, but I'll do probably more of that once I get to the bands up top. And I'm definitely working on hip rotation as well. So these are the ATG door hammy bands that they have. Again, I'll link this down in the description. Code Mobile Marty saves you 10% on any ATG equipment, which is pretty handy for these things, which essentially are Jaeger bands. So I'm making this for you as a baseball player. I'm assuming you're a baseball player watching this. Jaeger bands work just as well, but I like these a little bit more because they're a little more versatile and have a carabiner here where you kind of get a lot more range of motion, hooking them up to your ankles and your wrists as well. So first thing I like to do is I spread my legs here like I'm in a pancake and my toes are straight up here. So I'm gonna let the band pull them in to work on a little bit of internal rotation. And then I'm gonna lean back and try to drive my heels into the ground and bring my toes back, get some external rotation there. Then I'll let it pull me back in, embrace it. Sometimes I find gotta go a little further away. And even just keeping the toes straight up here, you're getting a lot of those abductors firing. I really like to make sure I get some internal rotation. Maybe I use my hands to point my toes in a little more. And then get them to point all the way out, get some external rotation. So this one always feels really good. I'm usually thinking, I don't know, 10, 12 reps, really whatever feels good. The rep range is always gonna vary depending on who you are and how you feel for that day. Then I'll go into a 90-90 here. So I've got some tension here that I've actually got to push down with a little bit. So I'm doing a little bit of resistance repping here. Then I'll come down, stretch it out a little bit too. But I really like being active with it before any game especially. And then you can kind of finagle yourself to where you get some resistance here on internal rotation and you're working to keep that heel or the inside of your foot in the same spot and you're just pivoting around the inside of your foot, driving down, feeling that stretch, rotating open this way to really get a lot of that rotation in the hips and also in the torso as well. Getting a little bit of that counter rotation that we want to look at, like hip shoulder separation, internally rotating while our shoulders stay this way. So That feels pretty good there. And I always come to the other side. Again, what we do to one side, we're always going to do to another. Just feeling that out. Feeling good there. And then find that angle of where you get some tension for internal rotation. Breathing out on every rep here. Yeah, that feels really good. And then you can even try to drive your back toe into the ground a little bit here. Try to go at an angle here. If you drive your toe in there, you can get a little bit more of a stretch in that internal rotation. So that feels good. Now that I'm already on my back, I'll just lie down, put my hands under my butt, feet together, pull up, hold for a second, come back down, up, hold for a second, come back down. You can go just past 90 on your way down because there's not much tension after this position here. So I'm really just trying to get some tension in that lower ab region and those hip flexors. Again, I'm usually thinking 20, 25 reps, whatever feels good. Now I'll just flip it over onto my stomach, maybe walk out here a little ways, go hamstring curls. So I'm thinking about not dorsiflexing my toes, I'm thinking about pointing them. So I'm putting all the emphasis on my hamstrings here. So get some reps here with double leg. And then I'll play around and hold one up there and do like 5 on this side. Hold there, do like 5 on this side. Little contralateral work there. Hamstrings feel good there. Hips feel good there. I can then stand up and just like we did internal, external rotation, you can at least walk out here and turn that foot in and get some stretch on that hip. Really feel good stretch there. Come out a little further. Good stretch on that hip. Walk out. Find that tension. Good stretch on that hip. Internal rotation is huge. And a lot of times some people think it's like knee valgus or too much pressure, too much stress on your knees. Well, it's too much pressure and stress on your knees if your knees can't handle it. That's why I do what I do when I warm up and strength training wise, but you still want to be able to rotate at the hips. You got to be able to rotate at the ankle, at the knee, and at the hip. A lot of times I feel like it's, at least for me, it's stemmed from my hips, so I can never warm them up too good. Now we're going to go into some abduction, adduction. So just coming here, explosive as high as I can get, trying to keep the toe pointed straight ahead that way. That feels good. Again, there I'm thinking 10, 12, 15 reps. Really depends on the day. Work a little abduction here, or adduction, I apologize. We just did abduction going that way. Adduction is bringing it closer to your midline, so I'm working this outside left leg, bringing it closer. Now, almost like to hold isometrically here to get a lot of tension going on my groin, and that feels good. Then I can switch, come here, as high as I can get that range of motion going. Then I bring the other foot in front, work adduction, holding there. That feels pretty darn good. You could turn around, do standing hip flexion as well, which isn't so bad. I'm personally a fan of both, honestly, with lying and standing. I like the feel of both, so sometimes I'll work in both of them, but that feels pretty good. So now I'll unclip from the bands and we'll go to the bat here. Gonna sit my butt down against the fence, and depending on what field you're at, you gotta watch out if you got any wasps or anything. Bat is overhead, going over to one side, breathing out, trying to keep your arms as straight as possible overhead, riding that fence line. Breathe in, and then breathe out. Let that relax. And here I'm thinking maybe 3 to 5 reps, maybe 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 on each side. Really depends on how you're feeling for the day. Work my way out here. Feel pretty good there. Now, before I even get into the upper body, what I like to do is make sure my spine is feeling nice and mobile and flexible. So I'm gonna lie back up here, work to get my toes to the ground over my head, maybe reach my hands towards my toes, really feeling that stretch and decompression in my neck here, being in a super flex position while also decompressing the mid spine here. That feels good. So now we flexed it out. Now we're gonna get to extension. Really feel good here. Can do some reps. That feels good. All right, so now come to the band. The only thing about the ATG band is you have to slide it through the fence because there isn't a carabiner hookup like there is with the Jaeger bands. So that's the only downfall really that I find with ATG bands, but to be honest, it's really not that bad. And again, if you have Jaeger bands already, man, don't worry about getting these. Jaeger bands will suffice. I haven't done them with Jaeger bands, but it's pretty close to the same thing. So don't overthink it. If you got what you got, use what you got, right? If you don't have bands, you can still do them body weight. You just got to do a lot more reps, a lot more volume to get a lot more blood flowing. So that's the beauty of the bands. Now we're attacking every joint angle for the shoulder here. I had to get rid of my hair tie there, get everything off my wrist. So strap it up to the wrist. And again, this is ground up, right? So I'm starting from 0 with the ankles, then going to the knee and the hips from every angle possible, no stone left unturned. How I like to start is I'm facing the fence with the bands in front of me. I lift my shoulders up overhead to try to get them in as a flex position as possible. And we're actually working on flexion here, trying to pull back into flexion. So I just like to go kind of fast here, get a lot of blood flowing. I'm thinking like 10 to 15 reps here. Good, now I'll go to like 3/4. Same thing to the side, same thing. Trying to hit every joint angle possible. Down low, 3/4. Underhand, 3/4. That's pretty good. So now I'll flip it around. So now I'm again in that overhead position with my shoulders flexed, but now I'm trying to pull into extension, which I feel is a lot easier, and you get a good stretch on the pecs too. So I'm there. Here I'm really trying to let things hang out and get a nice good stretch there. Kind of let it hang out. Now I'm coming here to the side, 3/4, and underhand as well. And again, whatever reps you need to feel good is what you should do. Now I'm going to go into some scap retraction, protraction. Usually I'll take a step back and I'll let the spine flex, let it kind of hang out, get some lat armpit stretch in here, rotate my shoulders around, pronation, supination, get some extreme pronation there. Oh, that's pretty good. And then I usually take a step in, get that retraction, and then I go to protraction as I step away and get some of that decompression. Right back to retraction here, and then I can kind of pump that short range. So again, 8 to 10, 12 reps, whatever feels good. Now, external and internal rotation. So you can start with the bands here. You can go external like this. I usually go pronate to supinate right there, and then internal, just sink into pronate, pronate, pronate. I don't like doing them that way typically. I like doing external rotation. You get external rotation with the face pulls, but isolating it up here, pulling back, trying to move just at the elbows to get the hands back. I'm not pulling the whole hand, keeping the elbows still, and that felt good, pretty good there. Again, whatever reps feel good for you. So now what I like to do is I'll turn around, let it all stretch out, kind of hang out here, come into it, lean into it a little bit. It's like a little lunge. Lean in with the other way. Really let those shoulders stretch out, being supinated and pronated here. And that feels good. So now I'm going to find that tension, leaving the chest proud, elbows behind me, going to curl up and come back down, curl up, come back down. So trying to get front side of the elbow going a little bit, the biceps, maybe a little bit of the brachialis, but a lot into that labrum, long head of the bicep running up into the shoulder labrum here. So that feels good there. Now I go back side of the elbow, tricep extension, right? So I'm thinking supinate to pronate, supinate to pronate, holding at the top there. And again, this may not be considered stretching, but we're trying to get a lot of blood flowing. That feels good. 10, 12, 15 reps. Again, whatever feels good for you. So now I come back to the overhead position, find some tension here. I'm going to go back into my split squat. Really let the shoulders pull into flexion. Reach over the one shoulder. Get a good stretch in that hip. Across the other side. That feels good. I'll come back here. And if you can't get into a full ATG split squat, then you can leave the knee on the ground, but still make sure you're getting extension back there with that hip. Oh, lean over both ways. Oh, that feels really good. Feels really good. Now after that, feel pretty good to get going and play a game. Again, hitting every joint angle, moving in every direction possible. Reps always depends. Some days I may feel like I only need 3 or 4 face pulls. Some days I may feel like I need 6 or 8 or 10, especially when I get in the flexion and extension of the shoulders. That varies tremendously each day. When you're working finger extension and finger flexion in the beginning, you're always taking that to failure, burning it out till you literally can't grip your, like squeeze your fingers anymore. Again, I would do that. I would do all of this with the bands and the body weight, and then I would get into my plyo balls. Those would be the first balls I'd throw, and then I'd go throw baseball. If you feel like you need anything else to kind of get going, you know, sometimes I'll sit here and I'll just kind of move the bat around, getting a good rotation here. Just get the body moving, ready to rotate, right? Sometimes I'll hit the QL again, but standing up here, different leverage. That feels pretty good there. And then, you know, I may even come down into like a T-spine pass through, is what I like to call it, T-spine rotation or something. Down here on all fours, rotate all the way up. Bring your hand so your palm is to the sky, underneath your other hand. Drive this arm here into the ground, pulling away, and then you'll feel that stretch on the back side of your lat here. You can open up and do the same thing there, and then pull back. You can do reps there. Typically here, I don't feel like I need any more than like 2 or 3 each side. So really getting that nice stretch, back side of the shoulder. Breathing the whole time. So that's a nice little rotation piece that if I feel like I'm still a little stiff in that thoracic mid-back area, right behind the shoulders, then I'll add that in. I'll go do my plyo balls. There'll be other videos that'll come out for pitching plyo care work, catching plyo care work, infielder plyo care work. There'll be more about recovery with plyo care balls, more plyo care ball routines. But in terms of pre-game, before I touch a baseball, before I do anything, right after I put these freaking cleats on, I'm getting the bands hooked up. I'm getting finger flexion, finger extension going, tibs, calves, working from the ground up. If you have any questions at all, please shoot me a message at Mobility Marty on Instagram. Routines in any sport are huge, but especially in baseball. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this can help.